At Qingtung Academy, a seemingly normal day at school already has trouble brewing behind classroom doors. There, Linyu requires that two seniors return the medicine meant for his sick sister. Yet the battered student's enraged warning only makes his smug bullies laugh even harder. Meanwhile, Zhang Yang mocks his pathetic .62 vitality score and brags that his own reaches 3.5. All the while, Zhao Lei insists Linyu gained admission to this elite academy only because his sister is gifted. Zhang Yang dangles the stolen nutrient solution before him, openly baiting the exhausted kid, then without concern tosses the valuable bottle away and dares him to chase after it, forcing Lin Yu to dive in desperation before the medicine hits the classroom floor, only for the glass bottle to explode into blue, totally useless shards across the floor. Also, the loss makes him freeze, because replacing that solution will cost more than he has. Even so, Zhang Yang grabs his collar before the fury can turn into a confrontation, smashing him backward into a desk while everyone nearby watches in fearful silence, then pins him beneath one shoe and states that trash belongs inside a dumpster. A warning that the faculty member is approaching eventually interrupts Zhang Yang's bullying spectacle. Therefore, both bullies stroll away, leaving their injured victim beside the shattered medicine. All the while, he calculates the overtime needed to protect his sister's already fragile health. Humiliation becomes a promise. Zhang Yang and Zhao Lei will both pay for this, yet an unfamiliar hand stretches down before he can drag himself upright alone, belonging to senior schoolmate Lin Xin, who gently asks whether he is still okay. Also, although he insists everything is fine, she takes his hand and leads him back. Their moment ends when his crematorium foreman calls, enraged that the rookie is late again. Therefore, he offers an apology to Lin Xin and sprints toward another ferocious night shift, leaving the concerned senior watching silently as he disappears beyond the classroom door. This world changed in Old Century 4832, when a cataclysm unleashed corruption across civilization, forcing human bodies beyond their limits and awakening warriors with supernatural combat abilities. Yet death became equally unnatural, turning corrupted remains into bloodthirsty reanimated corpses. Also, humanity discovered only burning the body completely could permanently stop those monsters. That nightmare fuels Lin Yu's deadly evening job. Incinerating bodies returned from the battlefront. There, heavy armor and a respirator are mandatory before anyone enters the furnace chamber, as he frantically needs 200,000 before his sister's nutrient pod subscription expires this month. She once broke through the 10,000 vitality mark and awakened ultra-rare psychokinesis during her sophomore year, only to fall into an unexplained coma on their 17th birthday, keeping her suspended inside medical fluid with no sign of waking. All the while, the talentless brother she always protected now carries responsibility for keeping her alive. Every completed cremation pays 20,000, which means 10 more corpses can cover the pod after today's medicine. As a result, he ignites the newest body and watches the furnace erupt around Itruvi, burning away the corpse as dark corruption twists with violent force through the flames, a lethal reaction making it clear why this high-paying job attracts so few workers. One minor slip can let corruption kill the operator or transform them into another creature. Meanwhile, tonight, an unprecedented black mass all at once coils around Lin Yu's burning chamber. He stares in confusion as the shadowy strands press through the sealed furnace window, spreading across the chamber floor like living smoke seeking a host, before curling around his armor and cutting off every safe escape route. Instead of pain, however, the corruption sinks straight into his body, leaving him strangely comfortable as a blue glow floods his senses and triggers a vision. The shadows replay the dead warrior's memories, showing the life burned inside that furnace. There, a young Li Yong proudly announced his plan to join the army after graduation, then entered the 38th Army Special Operations Brigade under identification HX01861121. Merciless training forged his vitality through sweat, pain, and constant physical breakthroughs until the recruit could unleash disciplined martial strikes with enough force to crack stone. When alien beasts breached Hill 301, Li Yong charged forward to defend his homeland. Still, that final conflict left him dead, ending the memory in a violent blast. Lin Yu snaps back as an unknown soul-gazing system starts initializing inside his vision, proving he somehow witnessed the complete past of the deceased warrior before the soul-devouring system activates and the corpse bound in chains abruptly begins to move. The nearby alien beast opens 4 burning eyes, its body saturated with black corruption. All the while, a floating interface analyzes the beast and leaves Lin Yu scrambling for answers, since the supposedly dead creature tears against its restraints and lunges right at him. The system identifies a reanimated level 1 alien beast, turning confusion into a sudden rush of terror. At the same time, the snarling beast tears free and brings its claws down at lethal proximity. With nowhere to run, Lin Yu grits his teeth and braces for the collision. Still, the beast sends him stumbling backward, snapping its jaws inches from his face, then pins him beneath its weight while corruption whips around them like black fire. The system offers one lifeline, allowing him to cultivate a gift from Li Yang's memory held within the soul. He promptly chooses basic military martial arts instead of immortal will or ambitious spirit, just as the creature's restraint at last gives way under the savage struggle. A prompt orders him to raise his new combat arts proficiency through real battle. Meanwhile, the jackal hound tears free, snapping the last chain between them, yet he twists aside with footwork impossible for his untrained body, landing smoothly across the chamber before the beast can adjust its strike. Power floods his muscles, his vision sharpens, and every enemy motion becomes easy to read, enabling him to track the next claw swipe before it fully begins. Then slip past the strike while the beast gouges another trench through the floor. That narrow escape proves the upgrade is real, though one mistake could still end everything, as Li Yong's military training now guides his body with raw fighting instinct. When the incensed beast charges again, Lin Yu stops retreating and rushes straight forward, cutting inside its reach before those huge claws can close around him, then driving a ferocious punch into the monster's skull with his borrowed technique, sending the reanimated jackal hound crashing headfirst into the reinforced floor. There it lies shocked while the teenager cannot help wondering when he became this ridiculously strong. The system credits basic military martial arts with 10% progress, boosting stamina and vulnerability detection, although he still has a feeling that unusual blue light triggered this heaven-defying encounter. A notification detects another corpse close at hand and marks soul devouring as available again. As a result, the newly empowered employee resolves to test the gift on the dead jackal hound. First, he seals Li Yong's remains inside the incineration furnace for proper disposal, offers silent thanks to the deceased warrior for his memories, and hopes he can rest in peace, then heads toward the abomination's corpse, hoping the same enigmatic reaction will repeat. The instant his hand touches its fur, black corruption surges savagely into his arm, spreading through his body until blood reaches his mouth and strength leaves his legs. Meanwhile, golden light consumes his eyes and the beast's savage instincts overwhelm him. Excruciating pain tears a scream from Lin Yu as the foreign memory held within the soul forces itself open, exposing the jackal hound's life among innumerable monsters hunting across a burning battlefield. Hunger drove the beast to maul humans and gorge itself whenever prey appeared. Even so, no amount of violence satisfied it, only creating an endless demand for more flesh. The vision releases him coughing, shaken by the alien beast's ferocious memories, meanwhile at last grasping what border warriors endure against these monsters on a daily basis. After reading the level 1 soul, the system offers claw skill, devour technique, or chaos consciousness. All the while, he deduces that cremation's strange blue glow unlocks soul devouring for touching another corpse later. Devour technique gets rejected promptly because eating people is an upgrade nobody needs. As a result, Lin Yu selects the claw skill he previously witnessed working in real combat. Black-red energy promptly wraps his fingers, reshaping them into savage armored talons until both hands enter a full claw state built specifically for melee combat. Claw skill starts at level 1, boosting hand attacks 5% and causing laceration damage. Meanwhile, Soul Devour goes on a 12-hour cooldown before another corpse can be processed. Lin Yu dismisses the transformation, understanding this overpowered system needs careful testing, especially after the combat menu displays separate options to use or absorb the technique. He figures absorbing another copy might stack its power instead of replacing it, yet without a duplicate available, that experiment will have to wait. Another screen confirms Soul Devour itself is only level 1, which means the system is probably capable of upgrading despite refusing to explain how that happens. Rather than chase mysteries, the practical kid focuses on abilities he can improve promptly, choosing to grind basic military martial arts while this private chamber remains available. Li Yong's physique-tempering memories guide his opening stance and every transition between attacks, enabling him to drive a clean punch forward with disciplined speed and alignment, then chain together kicks, turns, and grounded movements far beyond routine school training. Though the sequence is difficult, inherited experience makes each motion feel practiced innumerable times. As a result, he controls his breathing and pushes through the strain without breaking rhythm. The protective coat is removed as repeated drills build heat and demand freer movement, exposing smoother, denser vitality circulation than the basic physique tempering technique taught at school. Also, that immediate difference has him grinning before launching straight into another repetition. By the next morning, his all-night training leaves him asleep at his classroom desk until the faculty member wakes him and warns that college admissions exams are only 2 months away. Lin Yu offers an apology without explaining the creature confrontation, the system, or his underground training session. Meanwhile, the disappointed instructor dismisses class while secretly regretting his wasted potential. Truthfully, excitement kept the worn-out teenager practicing military martial arts until sunrise. However, all that effort raised proficiency by only 1%, bringing it to 11. Live combat clearly works faster, making the unexplored absorb option even more tempting, when Zhao Lei interrupts by mocking his future and dragging his comatose sister into it. The thug sounds confident, though the once weak student's transformed physique and presence discreetly unsettle him. All the while, Lin Jin steps between them and calls Zhao Lei out for going too far. Lin Yu simply leaves without looking back, warning her not to catch stupidity by standing nearby. Also, Lin Jin spots that one night somehow made him handsomer and noticeably better built. Incensed at being ignored, Zhao Lei chases after him with another barrage of insults. Therefore, Lin Yu coolly invites the loudmouth into the martial training room for a real match. Students gather because Zhao Lei's 2.7 vitality renders him a quasi-warrior with specialized fighting instruction, yet both fighters accept the academy's rule that free sparring happens at their own risk. Word spreads across campus, drawing a crowd eager to watch two seniors at last throw down. Meanwhile, Zhao Lei squares up with friends behind him, and his adversary enters alone. One supporter urges the stronger thug to finish everything with a single punch. Meanwhile, Zhao Lei plans to replace absent Zhang Yang by testing his training on today's victim. Lin Yu answers the posturing with one cold sentence, calling him Zhang Yang's obedient lapdog, which sends Zhao Lei charging forward with an incensed punch aimed straight at his face. Lin Jin shouts a warning, expecting the supposedly weak student to be flattened, yet he catches Zhao Lei's wrist one-handed and stops the assault totally. Golden eyes lock onto the thug as Lin Yu repeats his promise of making both tormentors regret everything, leaving Zhao Lei panic-stricken by strength that should be impossible for someone with 0.62 vitality. A sharp wrist turn drags the quasi-warrior off balance before he can pull away. Meanwhile, a compact counterstrike crashes into his face with military precision, followed by a punishing combination that demolishes Zhao Lei's defense and sprays blood through the air. The final blow launches him across the hall in front of all the speechless onlookers. Inside, he lands battered, clutching the empty space left by one missing tooth. He warns that another insult toward his sister will cost far more than dental work, then grabs his backpack and turns and departs without giving the humiliated bully another glance. Humiliation twists Zhao Lei's face as his hand finds a discarded combat knife nearby. Also, he charges from behind, abandoning sparring rules while screaming for Lin Yu to die. The system-enhanced combatant senses the killing intent, one eye flashing red over his shoulder, just before Zhao Lei swings the blade downward with both hands and no restraint. Claw skill erupts in black-red armor, intercepting the ambush and hurling its enemy aside, leaving Zhao Lei trapped on the floor beside talons capable of tearing through him. Meanwhile, Lin Yu coolly questions whether the panic-stricken thug still wants to continue. The crowd erupts over his transformed hand, debating whether it is a combat weapon, combat art, or corruption. Still, he retracts the claw, retrieves his bag, and leaves Zhao Lei stammering behind him. The humiliated bully can do nothing but threaten that Brother Zhang will get even. All the while, the once weak student walks through the gathered students and replies that he will be waiting. Night returns him to the crematorium beneath another quiet moon. Inside, Soul Devour's 12-hour cooldown has expired and new abilities are available again. He enters eager to discover today's gains, only to find his manager following close behind, demanding a respectful greeting before the laborer can even reach the furnace chamber. The older man asserts the rookie owes him gratitude for receiving this hazardous work, although the kid knows nobody else wanted it and only the high pay keeps him here. Another large shipment of bodies has arrived, so the manager orders him to stop slacking, then leaves him alone with the cold storage door open before him. Inside wait an alien beast and two dead servicemen, all prepared for cremation, adding to a troubling increase in military corpses arriving from the battlefront. The Jackalhound's memories already showed defensive positions being overwhelmed by monsters, raising the terrifying possibility that humanity's border is approaching a major collapse. Since official news reports nothing, Lin Yu cannot confirm whether that threat is real, yet uncertainty only strengthens his resolve to gain power as fast as he can. He says he is sorry to the first dead soldier before placing a hand upon the body. Also, Soul Devour pulls blue-black energy upward as another memory starts unfolding. Recognizing a uniform like Li Yong's, he hopes this soldier carried the same combat discipline. All the while, the absorbed soul settles and the system finishes processing its martial experience. The deceased is first-class soldier Wang Muyong, offering military combat art, a corrupted badge, or sacrificial courage. Meanwhile, Lin Yu chooses military combat art at once, aiming for a duplicate combat art. This time he selects Absorb instead of Use, testing whether matching abilities can combine, which upgrades beginner military combat art to level 2 with 10% progress and 20% physical enhancement. Better still, the combat art now reads exposed flaws and predicts an assault path half a second early, showing repeated absorption can directly power level abilities whenever matching souls become available. His celebration ends when Soul Devour instantly begins a new 12-hour cooldown, reminding him that this ultimate cheat code cannot be spammed through a whole morgue. The teenage furnace worker returns the body to its gurney, planning to finish work before training again. Far away on the frontier, fresh soldiers and alien beasts cover another devastated battlefield. At the same time, transport crews cautiously load a warrior whose shattered neck barely remains attached. Multiple trucks receive heaps of creature corpses while exhausted workers clear the destruction, until the first remains truck is declared full and ordered away from the front, carrying its deadly cargo into the darkness before anyone observes movement behind the tailgate. A purple limb slowly rises over the truck bed as the vehicle continues down the road. Then one supposedly dead alien beast opens a glowing red eye beneath the pile, followed by another awakening head. Verifying corruption is reanimating the entire shipment. Back at Qingtung Academy, students gather in the hallway as another confrontation starts taking shape. Zhang Yang corners Lin Xin and announces that he will repeat his demand only once, ordering her to bring Lin Yu onto the sports field after school to kneel before Zhao Lei. If she refuses, the silver-haired senior warns that she may not leave this corridor walking. Still, Lin Xin defends her friend, insisting Zhao Lei attacked first and the group are bullies. The bandaged loser insists she conspired with his rival and laughed while he was beaten, an accusation she rejects instantly despite being surrounded by Zhang Yang's crew. One lackey snatches the blue notebook she has been clutching against her chest, taunting that her nervous reaction proves its contents were prepared for their target. Lin Jin lunges to recover it, only for another hand to restrain her arm. Meanwhile, the thief flips through meticulously highlighted concepts and detailed examples. He mocks all that effort as useless because helping trash cannot change what the boy is, then rips the notebook apart and scatters weeks of handwritten pages across the floor. Zhao Lei grabs the incensed girl's wrist, calling her punishment the cost of interfering, until Zhang Yang orders his subordinate to release her and steps across the ruined notes. He belittles her tears over a mere notebook, towering behind the shaken senior, then grips her chin and asserts pleasing him matters more than spending time with trash. Lin Shin answers by biting his thumb hard enough to escape. As a result, the enraged thug strikes her across the face and calls her ungrateful. Zhao Lei applauds the strike, treating her resistance as disrespect toward brother Zhang. Meanwhile, she mourns the study notes she spent half a month preparing for her junior. Refusing to lose every page, Lin Jin dives toward the last intact section. Still, Zhang Yang dismisses her resistance as ignorance of what is supposedly best for her. He slams the senior onto the corridor floor before she can recover the notes, boasting that superior vitality makes his strength and speed unbeatable anywhere in school. Since she dared make physical contact, Zhang Yang pledges a lesson she will remember, then orders 3 subordinates to strike together and offers responsibility if they break her. The first lackey enthusiastically winds up a punch, claiming this is punishment for opposing brother Zhang Van, only for Lin Yu's hand to clamp around his wrist before the blow reaches her. He demands to know whether 4 guys attacking 1 girl possess any shame, even though the injured Lin Xin urges him to leave before this confrontation becomes worse. Instead, he twists the enemy's arm until the lackey collapses screaming beside him. Also, Zhang Yang welcomes his arrival, pleased that hunting for the target is unnecessary. Among the scraps, he finds her warrior assessment notes and handwritten encouragement addressed to him. As a result, he resolves these bullies are rabid dogs that need their teeth removed. Zhang Yang laughs at the supposedly weak student's confidence and steps forward to silence it. Yet a lightning-fast counter smashes the silver-haired senior across the face, followed by a compact body strike that folds him before his crew can react. Lin Yu completes the combination by launching Qingtung Academy's strongest senior across the corridor, then pledges to repay every humiliation inflicted on Lin Xin at twice the intensity, leaving surrounding classmates speechless that yesterday's victim challenged Zhao Lei and Zhang Yang back-to-back. Zhao Lei screams for brother Zhang to beat the challenger to death. Meanwhile, the rising senior admits this former punching bag all at once developed an interesting backbone. Rather than finish things inwardly, Zhang Yang proposes a public duel 3 days later at Central Training Ground, promising an apology, compensation, and permanent peace if the supposed weakling somehow wins. The official Qingtung Academy application lands between them before the losing condition is revealed. Defeat means kneeling before the entire school, admitting he is trash, and dropping out voluntarily. Students recognize a public duel as Zhang Yang's plan to destroy his rival totally. Meanwhile, Lin Xin begs him to remember that his comatose sister still needs him. Others compare Zhang Yang's 3.5 vitality against Lin Yu's score below 1 and call victory impossible. Meanwhile, Zhao Lei suggests kneeling 3 times now might earn a little mercy. Ignoring every warning, Lin Yu accepts the duel but adds one condition of his own, demanding the entire match be recorded and broadcast publicly instead of disappearing behind academy walls. He signs his name as challenger, making the agreement official before the assembled crowd, as Lin Yu wants everyone to remember the outcome long after those 3 days. Zhang Yang takes the completed form, amused by confidence he considers suicidal. Meanwhile, the challenger vows the broadcast will establish perfectly who belongs in the trash. That evening, returns him to the crematorium with a deadline hanging over every shift. There, he checks into the secure work area under the foreman's watch, planning to refine military combat art or absorb new abilities throughout the next 3 days, since losing this duel would cost his education, reputation, and only path forward. Tonight's batch was redirected because even crematorium one could not process everything alone, which worries Lin Yu since that facility normally handles the most formidable alien beasts. His manager abruptly praises the management, then flatters the laborer whose vitality now leads this facility, only to snap back into orders when the young employee pauses instead of entering his assigned hall. He heads inside without arguing, keeping his attention on the abilities needed for victory, all the while inwardly roasting the old man's attitude for changing faster than a flip page. In Incineration Chamber 7, a muscular laborer drags another huge beast toward the furnace, when a violent disturbance tears through the chamber before the body reaches its destination. Black corruption coils around the employee's throat, leaving him helpless and horrified. At the same time, the alien beast rises behind him with glowing eyes and jaws already open. A scream and burst of blood mark the reanimated monster's first assault, before the sealed chamber falls abruptly silent and hides whatever remains inside. Next door in Chamber 6, our crematorium rookie pauses after hearing what sounded like someone screaming. Yet the returning silence causes him to doubt himself and resume the deadly night duty. Every corpse in his chamber belongs to an alien beast, eliminating any easy military technique duplicates, although fewer dead servicemen would at least mean better news for the front line. One tail abruptly catches his eye because its scales no longer match their earlier color. Meanwhile, the spreading change confirms corruption is actively transforming the supposedly dead body. Lin Yu watches the scales darken across the tail, recognizing the threat one moment too late. At the same time, the reanimated beast erupts upward and charges straight at him through black energy. Lin Yu steadies himself as the awakened beast barrels forward before he can reach the door, then dives beneath a crushing sweep that nearly removes his head along with the wall. Yet when the beast lands, its purple body folds against the tiles and begins fading, until the entire creature disappears from sight, leaving no obvious target anywhere in the chamber. The disguise exposes its trick. This monster entered camouflaged as rotting tissue on another corpse, indicating stealth beasts infiltrated the crematorium inside the supposedly secure battlefront shipment. If the rookie cannot stop this one quickly, every connected chamber could become a slaughterhouse. Therefore, he closes his eyes, amplifies every sense, and trusts military combat art to find a flaw. Breathing, floor pressure, and faint air movement map the invisible hunter's position across the hall until one golden eye opens and he eventually locks onto the hidden target. He slams the nearby control panel, sealing the chamber before the abomination can escape, then whips a metal restraint ring through the exact space where its head should be. Also, the impact reveals a purple skull, forcing the camouflaged beast back into view. Enraged, it abandons stealth and launches its full weight toward him with claws extended. Still, Claw skill erupts in time, meeting the strike with armored talons and a violent collision. Corrupted blood sprays across him as he counters, raising the terrifying possibility of infection, however. Level 2 combat art predicted the assault path, leaving only a shallow scratch across his neck. An emergency broadcast identifies phantom-scale stealth beasts in rooms 3, 7, 14, and 15. All the while, a heavy silhouette appears beyond his doorway as the facility orders immediate evacuation. Still, sensing no supernatural fluctuations outside, he resolves the corridor is temporarily safe to enter. Lin Yu follows the silent presence and finds where that earlier scream truly originated, finding the Chamber 7 employee collapsed in blood before any rescue could reach him. That corpse proves multiple monsters entered undetected, leaving their total number entirely unknown. Also, several horrified employees all at once race past with a whole pack pursuing them. Lin Yu throws his metal restraint toward the nearest beast, choosing rescue before self-preservation. Meanwhile, the spinning armament smashes its skull sideways, buying the fleeing workers valuable distance. Someone ahead opens the central safe chamber and urgently waves every survivor inside. Meanwhile, the rookie and the others sprint down the corridor with several monsters closing fast. Knowing he cannot defeat that entire pack alone, the young combatant prioritizes reaching reinforced shelter. Then another employee grabs him and orders the supposedly disposable rookie to cover their retreat, openly calling the student trash while using his body as payment for everyone else's safety. The betrayal leaves the young employee directly beneath snapping jaws as a camouflaged beast attacks. However, his enhanced prediction catches the hidden movement, allowing one desperate rolling dodge. Instead of helping, the cowards race through safety and demand the door close behind them, compelling him to shout for another second as he struggles back toward the entrance. The reinforced barrier slams shut right before him, sealing every selfish survivor inside. Meanwhile, someone declares that his death means one less burden, while Lin Yu curses their abandonment. He pounds the locked door and requires they reopen it before the monsters arrive. Still, repeated blows earn absolutely no answer from those protected on the opposite side. Cornered between betrayal and an approaching pack, Lin Yu's expression hardens into lethal resolve. 4 phantom-scale beasts emerge together, and their coordinated formation makes every escape route suicidal. As a result, he abandons the sealed door and accepts that fighting back is his only option. Battlefront warriors face worse terror daily, yet still overcome terror and meet their enemies head-on. Also, inheriting their hard-earned skills means he declines to shame the courage behind them. More importantly, his sister is still waiting, giving Lin Yu an absolute reason to survive. As a result, he charges first and kicks the nearest beast before their formation can fully tighten. The monster barely registers that opening blow, but the brawler never expected brute force alone, since concentrated perception now exposes subtle energy fluctuations moving beneath its corrupted body. His improved military combat art can track those changes whenever he focuses totally, enabling him to slip past a coordinated counterattack while reading multiple beasts simultaneously. One concentrated fluctuation reveals a vulnerable point, and our brawler immediately commits everything there, driving his transformed claw through the beast's exposed center with a punishing spray of blood. Another abomination attacks before he can recover, turning each kill into the next opening. Yet he keeps moving, tears through its abdomen, and declines to surrender momentum. The second monster crashes beside its partner as the remaining pair prepare another coordinated rush. All the while, Claw skill spreads farther up his arm, sharpening into a huge armored armament. He buries those talons through another skull, dropping a third abomination at arm's reach, then counts 2 enemies remaining despite the bloody bodies already covering the corridor. Both survivors all at once vanish, hiding so totally that even their physical outlines disappear. Meanwhile, their stronger concealment erases every energy fluctuation he previously depended upon detecting. He knows both hunters remain nearby, so lowering his guard would invite an invisible execution. Still, panic cannot reveal them, forcing Lin Yu to quiet his breathing and wait patiently. With eyes closed, he separates every minuscule corridor sound from his own pounding heartbeat, until faint movement and dripping blood begin marking one concealed beast's approach behind him. A soft scrape eventually betrays its position, giving the cornered rookie the opening he needed. Meanwhile, his golden eye snaps open as he announces that the hiding game is finished. He lunges straight through the camouflage before the surprised beast can change direction, then punches his transformed claw into its face, drawing another heavy burst of blood. The second hunter strikes from behind during that commitment, perfectly as their coordination intended. Meanwhile, he sacrifices his raised left arm to stop its lethal ambush from landing. Talons rip the limb apart, leaving him crouched over a rapidly spreading pool of blood. Still, even with his left hand nearly ruined, that painful defense created a countermeasure. The wounded enemy retreats and disappears again, believing camouflage restores its advantage. Meanwhile, our survivor pledges this time the beast will never escape his watchful eyes. Fresh droplets descend from empty air, exposing movement that perfect invisibility cannot conceal. Meanwhile, he follows their trail upward to discover the abomination clinging above the corridor. Its red eye widens as the supposedly wounded human looks right at its hiding place, as he deliberately covered those claws with his own blood during the ambush. The exposed monster drops from the ceiling, committing its entire body to one finishing strike. All the while, the survivor charges beneath it with both monstrous claws ready for the collision. Their attacks cross in midair, but the brawler's blood-red talons carve totally through the beast. Meanwhile, he crashes down alive while its severed body scatters behind him across the floor. Exhaustion instantly overwhelms the battered rookie, yet he in desperation insists that falling here is impossible, as escape and his waiting sister still demand whatever strength remains inside him. Lin Yu manages one decisive crawl across the blood-soaked corridor before his body gives out. Meanwhile, a severed purple tail twitches among the remains, proving the massacre truly ended. His eyes close beside the creatures he defeated, leaving those corrupted claws fully exposed, just as an armed military rescue unit reaches the corridor 30 meters from safety. Their white-haired captain warns everyone about a suspected abomination and orders maximum combat readiness until a masked soldier spots something surprising beyond the scattered alien remains. One unconscious teenager lies among numerous mutilated beasts, making the entire scene difficult to believe. Meanwhile, the sheltered workers eventually emerge and keenly ask whether every abomination was eliminated. The captain confirms temporary safety, sends one team toward survivors and assigns another to investigate, then studies wounds too irregular and savage to have come from unremarkable military weapons. A soldier abruptly reports that the blood-covered teenager remains alive, drawing the captain closer, yet a horrified survivor points toward the rookie's visibly transformed hand instead of offering help. Black corruption still coils around orange talons, making his mutation resemble an infected creature. Also, armed soldiers argue they must execute him unconscious before any complete transformation occurs. The captain halts them, after noticing those monstrous fingers slowly returning to human form, even though the cowardly workers demand immediate death, claiming everyone will be doomed if Lin awakens. The loudest coward inwardly fears his victim will expose how deliberately he arranged that abandonment. Still, the captain silences him with a blade and vows a further word means death. Flesh and scales trapped between Lin Yu's fingers prove he personally killed 4 phantom scales, an achievement the masked soldier admits would challenge their entire military squad acting together. Still desperate, the guilty employee cites the student's measured .68 vitality and firmly requests precautionary execution. Meanwhile, the captain realizes that anyone so weak who defeated 4 beasts could be a legendary prodigy. He confirms true corruption never reverses, which means the restored human hand eliminates any infection concern. Also, the exposed coward instantly pretends his murderous pressure came from concern for everyone. The captain takes the injured survivor into military custody, orders formation, and assumes responsibility for cleanup before our wounded hero is transported from the crematorium to a modern hospital. He awakens to steady dripping machinery, briefly disoriented by the unfamiliar medical chamber, then sits upright and understands someone brought him to safety after he lost consciousness. The white-haired captain stands nearby and assures Lin Yu that no peril remains, although the patient promptly requires an identity before trusting this imposing stranger. He introduces himself as Chen Zhen, captain of the district's corruption cleanup squad, then sincerely offers an apology because their delayed response left the rookie fighting alone overnight. Lin Yu accepts that the invasion happened too abruptly for perfect rescue timing. Meanwhile, Chen credits him with killing 4 phantom scales, including 1 elite-level monster. Impressed by both courage and potential, the captain offers the young survivor warrior status within their squad. Meanwhile, the young survivor can barely believe such an official invitation is truly meant for him. Chen observes that instant excitement and asks why becoming a warrior matters so deeply, prompting him to remember countless monsters and the brave fighters arriving dead at his workplace. with casualties rising, waiting helplessly for destruction now feels worse than risking himself against it, especially when warrior strength could let him protect his sister and remaining family personally. Chen approves that answer, but explains joining requires passing the official warrior selection trial first, all the while secretly recognizing rare strength, self-sacrifice, and massive potential inside this injured teenager. Participation normally requires vitality above 3, which our underdog cannot satisfy through standard qualification. As a result, Chen hands him a captain's recommendation that bypasses the entry requirement totally. The selection trial begins in 1 month, giving the future warrior limited time for serious preparation. Also, Chen leaves after ordering him to recover, train hard, and arrive ready. Warrior status offers elite medical resources, possibly showing an actual cure for his sister. Then the system presents memory held within the soul, harvested from yesterday's elite phantom scale. 3 cultivation rewards appear: Scale Armor Defense, Claw Enhancement, or Aura Camouflage, forcing Lin Yu to compare survival, direct damage, and stealth before committing his only choice. Scale Armor could withstand punishment, covering the deadly weakness exposed during that corridor clash. Meanwhile, Claw Enhancement would push his already terrifying close-range strike power even higher. Aura Camouflage offers the near invisibility that made the elite beast almost impossible to track. Meanwhile, he recalls only spilled blood betrayed it, making this option nearly flawless. He chooses Aura Camouflage, prioritizing unpredictable movement over another straightforward offensive upgrade, then learns its active duration depends entirely upon the host's available physical stamina. The new technique hides Lin Yu's aura and blends his body straight into surrounding environments, though his shimmering outline proves this first attempt still needs considerable control and practice. Aura Camouflage begins at level 1, rendering him translucent while stationary and blurry during movement. As a result, while Soul Devar remains unavailable, Lin Yu commits every recovery hour toward mastering current abilities. Proper concealment could become the decisive trump card in his upcoming duel against Zhang Yang. Still, outdoor practice reveals camouflage means becoming part of the environment, not merely turning invisible. His unstable aura cannot fool even a harmless bird, exposing how badly energy keeps leaking. As a result, the young man meditates beneath the mountain and compresses that power with abomination-like precision. Repetition steadily expands both concealment range and effectiveness, demonstrating the disciplined method works, until only half his reflection remains visible when he raises one hand toward the mirror. That hand disappears entirely, demonstrating fine control has spread beyond simple full-body activation. Meanwhile, he pushes the remaining half toward invisibility without losing concentration or exhausting himself. Success raises level 1 Aura Camouflage proficiency by 5%, verifying measurable improvement. All the while, the teenager celebrates unlocking the complete concealment he frantically needed ahead of the duel. He grabs Chen's recommendation and vows Zhang Yang a painful lesson about who is truly trash. At the same time, Qingtung Academy's packed training ground gathers for the public match, choosing expulsion and humiliation. Lin Xin worries because her friend disappeared on leave for multiple days without explaining anything. Meanwhile, Zhang's grinning allies reveal secret stage traps designed to ensure their target never returns. Zhang Yang enters surrounded by blazing power, deliberately turning his arrival into pure intimidation, then mocks the absent challenger and cannot help wondering whether the supposed weakling became horrified enough to withdraw. Even school staff assume the reckless underdog has at last earned his inevitable expulsion, when a dark silhouette all at once fills the arena entrance and silences that premature judgment. Lin Yu walks onto the stage at once, carrying confidence nobody recalls him possessing, however, instantly observes suspicious discoloration along floorboards positioned around the platform's outer edge. Zhang welcomes his last-minute victim and sneers that dread nearly kept him away. All the while, the young fighter calmly suggests Zhang start planning how to kneel and apologize instead. Enraged at that confidence, the senior explodes forward and launches the opening punch all at once. Still, he slips aside so smoothly that Zhang's heavy fist strikes nothing. A rapid combination follows, and every blow misses as military combat art predicts each path. Though Zhang's allies keep cheering, convinced the huge vitality gap guarantees eventual destruction. Their hidden plan activates when Lin Yu deliberately steps onto one differently colored pressure tile, allowing Zhang to corner him above the trap and prepare what appears unavoidable punishment. Flame spirals around the senior's body, concentrating his full vitality into one descending fist. Meanwhile, he vows that Empowered Strike will at last launch his adversary straight from the arena. Instead, he smiles because this perfectly committed strike is precisely what he wanted, then activates Aura Camouflage, disappears from under the punch, and passes behind Zhang unseen. Lin Xin and the entire audience erupt when the supposed weakling reveals supernatural concealment. All the while, Zhang angrily dismisses invisibility as a cheap trick incapable of changing their outcome. He swings wildly through empty space and commands the invisible challenger to reveal himself promptly, only for an invisible counterattack to smash his ribs and force out a shocked scream. That strike triggers blue crystal armor across Zhang's body, and his embarrassment becomes murderous fury. As a result, he orders an accomplice to activate every hidden mechanism and physically force his rival out. Electrified fencing rises around the platform, transforming an official school duel into a sealed cage. Meanwhile, flames ignite along its boundaries, removing every conventional escape route from Zhang. The senior announces there is nowhere left to hide as fire surrounds his trapped rival. Meanwhile, a supervising faculty member protests that these lethal modifications blatantly violate the clash rules. Zhang answers that inside this arena he personally resolves what rules exist, then forces him back through blazing heat with another armor-powered offensive rush. Believing he has located the concealed target, Zhang attacks with increasingly vicious confidence. Still, the challenger kicks from broken flooring and barely escapes the strike's explosive impact. A direct strength contest remains impossible, so Lin Yu must identify one weakness and exploit everything. All the while, Zhang charges again beneath complete crystal protection that seemingly leaves nothing exposed. He sees energy circulating through the entire armor and searches frantically for its origin until enhanced perception identifies a concentrated blue core shining beneath Zhang's chest. The source sits inside his dantian, providing one vulnerable target capable of collapsing everything. Therefore, the once weak student activates camouflage again and slips beyond the senior's rushing fist. Zhang spins in alarm when his adversary disappears for the second time mid-assault, then shouts that only worthless trash depends upon such supposedly underhanded tricks. He braces inside the cage, unaware his invisible adversary is by now approaching from the blind side. Meanwhile, Lin Yu drives a corruption-wrapped strike right toward the armor's hidden energy source. Even claw skill cannot pierce that brilliant crystal shell, stopping his best cutting assault totally. Meanwhile, Zhang boasts this A-rank defense will remain untouchable until the challenger's next life. He retreats before the senior can retaliate, recognizing another opening requires a different method, since visible marks prove limited damage absorption. Making repeated blunt combat art strikes his answer. Zhang watches meticulously now, convinced calm observation will expose the camouflage trick's fatal weakness. Meanwhile, Lin Yu attacks from above with a spinning kick aimed toward that central protection. The impact drives Zhang backward but still leaves his glowing armor by all appearances intact, encouraging another smug taunt about whether the invisible underdog has eventually exhausted every option. He instantly circles into another heavy punch before the senior can fully reset. However, Zhang spots the approaching energy fluctuation and at last senses where camouflage is moving. Believing that subtle disturbance exposes everything, he announces that he has discovered the troublesome skill's flaw. Still, he lands another concentrated strike directly over the dantian core. Zhang laughs that even perfect targeting cannot overcome an A-rank defense through raw force. Also, Lin Yu answers that challenge by rushing forward to hit precisely the same point again. A second focused blow slams into the blue chest plate before Zhang's counter can intercept, producing the armor's first spreading crack and demonstrating merciless repetition can break its protection. Shock replaces arrogance when Zhang sees routine fists damaging his supposedly invincible crystal shell. Therefore, he catches his rival's wrist and raises one knee for a ferocious close-range punishment. The senior insists every little trick is finished while maintaining an unbreakable grip. Still, our brawler predicts the incoming strike and prepares to endure it for his own counterattack. Zhang's knee slams into his stomach, delivering precisely the ferocious punishment everyone expected. Even so, our brawler absorbs that pain because the perfect counterattack must happen right now. His free fist crashes into the weakened dantian plate, deepening every crack across Zhang's armor. Meanwhile, the senior staggers as blue protection begins failing around his chest and shoulders. Still arrogant, Zhang calls invisibility cowardice and insists his challenger lacks any warrior's worth. Therefore, Lin Yu pledges the conflict will end without another disappearance or sneak assault. Both hands transform into blazing red claws as Lin Yu announces one decisive final exchange. All the while, Zhang mocks the same talons that previously failed to scratch his defense. They charge straight toward each other, at last abandoning every feint and evasive option. Meanwhile, Zhang launches a full power kick intended to remove the once weak student from school permanently. His leg swings down with overwhelming force, by all appearances catching the once weak student entirely exposed. Still, level 2 combat art predicted this killing path before Zhang even began moving. Lin Yu slips inside its arc and drives both claws into the already fractured dantian plate, leaving Zhang frozen in disbelief as his invincible protection at last gives way. Cracks race across every crystal segment, severing the energy circulation holding them together, until the entire A-rank armor explodes outward in a spectacular storm of blue shards. Zhang collapses beside the flames, unable to understand how someone he called trash defeated him. All the while, Lin Yu stands above his fallen thug and coolly says neither combatant was special. The senior can merely glare upward, humiliated before the packed academy audience he invited. Also, a last strike plants him face first into the stage beneath the victor's triumphant stance. The audience erupts over a 0.68 vitality student defeating Zhang Yang despite every rigged advantage. Also, Lin Jin smiles through relief, proudly insisting she always knew her junior would win. From the private stands, Zhang's father and Academy Board Director Zhang Zhangguo watch furiously. Meanwhile, Academic Affairs Dean Li Minyu accepts responsibility and pledges investigation during next week's examination. Zhang Zhangguo requires punishment for every rule violation, clearly targeting the student who humiliated his son. Also, the nervous dean assures his mighty superior that a satisfying outcome will be delivered. Their conversation leaves an unmistakable warning that the young soul devourer offended people capable of crushing students. Still, outside the arena, a sudden communicator alert redirects the young brawler toward his next opportunity. Chen Zhen assigns him part-time work at Crematorium 1, where higher risk remains require serious caution. Meanwhile, Lin Yu accepts because better pay comes with stronger souls and potentially stronger abilities. Since the shift begins later, he heads toward the hospital to visit his sister first, arriving at City Central Hospital where her specialized life support treatment continues. Behind sealed glass, he heads toward the nutrient pod containing his motionless last family member. Meanwhile, watches his bandaged sister breathe through tubes while machinery keeps her suspended. He raises one hand toward the glass and softly tells her that he made it back at last, remembering childhood bullies who mocked his pathetic vitality and predicted lifelong failure. Back then, his fearless sister charged those boys and threatened to beat every tormentor apart, then warned anyone touching her little brother again would answer directly to her. She always restored his confidence, telling him he remained the best regardless of insults. As a result, he pledges to cure her before hospital staff request a serious conversation about her condition. Lin Yu turns from the nutrient pod, promptly recognizing that the approaching footsteps carry terrible news, also gives the attending doctor permission to explain everything without softening the truth. Corruption-tainted food originally caused her illness, while current support maintains only basic vital signs, yet the infection recently invaded internal organs so aggressively that 6 months may remain. He reels because medication controlled everything until this sudden catastrophic deterioration. Also, the doctor clarifies prolonged treatment probably allowed her corruption to develop resistance. Desperate, the worried brother demands another option and vows to attempt absolutely everything for her survival. As a result, the physician admits one possible method exists, although obtaining it appears entirely unrealistic. A national treasure called the Sunstone could suppress corruption and halt further deterioration. Even so, the government refused it even when his prodigy sister first collapsed, making approval impossible now. Lin Yu silently questions why the state abandoned someone whose talent once outshone a whole generation, then vows neither government refusal nor impossible odds will stop him from securing a cure. That evening brings him to towering Crematorium 1 for his hazardous new assignment. Inside, the teenage furnace worker reports directly to Chamber 3 and enters its unusually quiet processing chamber. Since the Sunstone belongs to the state, becoming a warrior now represents his fastest route, even though 3 human bodies, including medical personnel, make this batch stranger than expected. He respectfully addresses the deceased seniors before beginning, unaware one corpse is by now moving. Also, black corruption raises the nearest body behind him while his attention remains forward. The transformed corpse rises with red eyes, torn flesh, and a terrifying skeletal grin, compelling him to spin around as that fresh reanimation fills the hall. The young fighter promptly recognizes another reanimated corpse, but this human rival feels unusually deadly. Meanwhile, the corrupted giant lunges with far greater speed and discipline than mindless beasts. One huge fist crashes downward, compelling him to evade before the tiles shatter. Meanwhile, the follow-up swing nearly catches him while he scrambles beyond its immense reach. He understands this body belonged to a warrior whose trained strength survived death, though corruption erased speech and consciousness, leaving only hungry growls behind its assault. The fallen battlefront warrior has become precisely the abomination he once fought to destroy. Meanwhile, that final sacrifice makes Lin Yu determined to end his desecration with respect. The corpse charges again, combining monstrous power with aggressive movement learned through combat, then slams a practiced blow into the employee's raised defense and forces him back. Military combat art remains inside its muscle memory even without conscious thought or judgment, yet fixed training patterns also reveal the next straight punch through stance and balance. Lin Yu slips outside that predicted line as the corpse commits its entire weight forward, blocks another heavy strike at the final instant, and keeps reading the sequence, then punches through its unstable lower stance, disrupting the foundation beneath those formidable attacks. With the pattern broken, the combatant recognizes the one moment when a finishing counter becomes possible. Meanwhile, drives a crushing hook into the warrior's exposed head before recovery can begin. The impact whips the corrupted body around and slams it savagely into the floor. There, he silently asks forgiveness from the deceased senior he was forced to strike. All the while, the defeated corpse lies motionless again, its remaining corruption hissing into the chamber. Instead of fading, corruption twists the fallen body again and swells every exposed muscle grotesquely, making him retreat as the supposedly finished clash enters an unforeseen second phase. The former warrior rises totally transformed, towering like a purple-skinned creature rather than any corpse. Also, the young man recognizes almost nothing human remains inside that mutated shell. Its first punch crashes against his guard with enough force to shake the entire chamber, demonstrating both strength and speed have multiplied far beyond the disciplined corpse he fought earlier. The creature follows relentlessly, abandoning martial rhythm for unpredictable swipes and crushing body blows. All the while, he slips beneath one towering arm and searches for any reliable target. Its chest abruptly opens into a second fanged mouth, turning even close-range counters suicidal. Still, he drives a fast strike upward before those ribs can close around him. One sweeping counter launches the young brawler sideways, smashing his armored shoulder toward the chamber wall. Meanwhile, broken debris scatters across the floor beneath the creature's overwhelming pressure. Its entire appearance and strike pattern now belong to a beast, leaving no warrior discipline behind. Even so, Lin Yu recalls Soldier defending home and country against impossible alien attacks. Those inherited memories taught him precisely what a warrior should represent when facing terror. Meanwhile, he understands subconscious respect kept him from using full strength against this stolen body. Becoming a creature was never the deceased senior's intention, so hesitation only prolongs that disgrace, prompting him to promise he will eventually help the warrior rest with dignity. The mutation opens its chest maw again and gets ready for another savage frontal rush. Still, enhanced perception marks the heart as its weakness, sending him charging straight underneath. Lin Yu slips beneath the abomination's swing and transforms one arm into a towering claw, then respectfully tells the deceased senior to rest before committing everything to that heart. Red talons punch through the chest maw and tear directly across the glowing exposed flaw, leaving the mutation convulsing as corrupted tendrils burst from its collapsing body. A last slam drives the immense monster into shattered tiles and ends its movement totally. Meanwhile, the exhausted combatant reflects that any surviving human consciousness would have made victory far harder. The conflict upgrades military combat art to level 3, officially advancing it into intermediate mastery. Still, the corpse all at once releases a thick wave of purple corruption throughout the sealed chamber. He covers his mouth and retreats, instantly recognizing the lethal contamination surrounding him. Even so, Hall 3's safety door requires simultaneous confirmation from both sides and cannot open. Human corruption and decay are normally irreversible, making every additional breath potentially fatal. Also, the trapped employee fears remaining inside will infect him until he becomes another creature. Dense black tendrils wrap around his entire body while every escape attempt fails, yet Lin Yu closes his eyes and will not accept corruption as his ending. Several tense moments pass before he observes no mutation, pain, or mental collapse beginning, exposing that somehow the concentrated corruption failed to infect him at all. A new disturbance interrupts that discovery and turns his attention toward the remaining tables. There, black energy now coils around the untouched medical employee's motionless body. The brawler raises his guard, expecting another reanimation to begin inside the locked chamber, then waits uneasily as the corpse remains silent beneath an expanding ring of corruption. A cautious inspection confirms no movement, making the corruption's focus on this corpse especially unusual, until he sees that its glowing pendant actively pulling every black tendril inward. The small golden object can devour corruption without becoming contaminated, mirroring technology considered impossible nationwide. Meanwhile, his thoughts promptly return to the poison steadily consuming his sister's organs. The doctor said only a sunstone could suppress that infection before her remaining months disappear. As a result, the young soul devourer questions whether this abandoned pendant might contain the same life-saving material. He meticulously removes it from the medical employee's chest after verifying the corpse remains still, then grips this unforeseen hope and is convinced his sister may at last have a real chance. Chamber 3's sealed door opens once the hazardous corruption concentration falls to acceptable levels, yet he stays long enough to thank the deceased doctor and apologize for taking his pendant. He respectfully sends the body into the furnace while flames consume its remaining human form. Also, lingering black energy separates from the cremation, activating another readable soul-bound memory. Lin Yu enters the doctor's past as unfamiliar medical knowledge begins unfolding around him. Inside, young Yang Jinlong celebrates admission into prestigious Huaxia Central Medical University. He dedicates his research towards stronger battlefield potions capable of keeping warriors alive. Meanwhile, later becomes his master's final disciple, promised a medical legacy and future deanship. Instead, Yang Jinlong chooses the front line and develops treatment around actual warrior conditions, eventually creating Overwatch, a potion capable of restoring any exhausted brawler to peak condition. Yet his expression darkens because that miraculous recovery carries one horrifying unfinished consequence, namely absolute death 10 minutes after consumption, regardless of the warrior's restored strength. Surrounded soldiers willingly drink Overwatch, trading 10 remaining minutes for their country's survival, then charge an overwhelming alien horde with restored power and absolutely no intention of retreating. Watching their response, Yang Jinlong spends his remaining research time trying to perfect the formula, also eventually develops Life Enchantress, another potion centered upon overwhelming restoration. Drinking it injects immense life energy into a person, offering extraordinary medical potential beyond combat. Before the system offers Potion Mastery, Broken Pen, or Healer's Benevolence from Yang's soul, Lin Yu chooses Potion Mastery, betting pharmaceutical knowledge provides his sister's strongest rescue path. Also gains Expert Proficiency plus Ascending Dragon, Overwatch, and Life Enchantress recipes. Combined with the corruption-devouring pendant, that knowledge makes curing his sister eventually seem achievable. Therefore, the teenager returns to City Central Hospital at the fastest possible pace, Hidden beneath a hood, he enters her treatment area while the monitor shows 75% corruption. Meanwhile, understands the infection has by now reached a level leaving almost no safe time. His sister still hangs unconscious inside the pod as respirators sustain her failing body. As a result, he brings the golden pendant forward, unwilling to waste another second. He places it squarely against her chest where its corruption-absorbing surface begins glowing, then forces himself to wait, hoping the unknown material simply needs time to activate. 10, 20, and 30 minutes pass while the monitor remains fixed at 75%, making the young soul devourer dread the pendant cannot suppress his sister's corruption after all. The nutrient pod slowly closes again as the attempted treatment produces no visible improvement. Meanwhile, he cannot help wondering whether activation is delayed or her deeply rooted infection overwhelms the pendant. Whatever caused the failure, Lin Yu concludes that developing Life Enchantress as quickly as possible is now essential. Meanwhile, the following morning returns him to Qingteng Academy with pharmaceutical research replacing normal concerns. All the while, classmates socialize, the young fighter fills his desk with reference books and studies every inherited recipe, first eliminating Overwatch because its guaranteed 10-minute death makes practical testing totally unacceptable. Life Enchantress ingredients exist only inside severe disaster zones, while Ascending Dragon requires elusive crimson crystal grass. Meanwhile, military restrictions around corrupted territory make simply gathering those materials nearly impossible. Lin Jin interrupts his research, asking why he has seemed distracted for 2 straight days, then invites him to a newly opened Caf G near their bus stop after school. He declines because tonight already carries urgent work, although he meticulously avoids explaining what. Rather than pressing, Lin Xin pledges to help whenever his hidden difficulties become too heavy, as he previously saved her from Zhang's group, and she undeniably wants to repay that kindness. Surrounding classmates mention military vehicles entering their neighborhood overnight, suggesting something major happened with no warning. Meanwhile, Lin Yu knows routine residential areas never receive deployments unless a new threat appears. Lin Xin discreetly agrees the truth cannot remain hidden for much longer. Therefore, he leans closer and wants to know if her family provided any reliable inside information. After brief hesitation, the pink-haired senior resolves this warning matters more than secrecy, exposing her father's patrol squad was summoned overnight to reinforce military security. The abandoned district north of school may soon receive official classification as a corrupted zone, since a crystal-armored python nested there while local corruption concentrations surged uncontrollably overnight. That creature's name promptly catches the teenager's attention, connecting the threat to his desperate ingredient search. Crimson crystal grass grows after python venom corrupts perfectly matched soil, making this nest an ideal source, though Lin Xin urgently warns him to keep everything she revealed entirely secret. He coolly vows silence while already grasping this opportunity may never appear again, also chooses to enter tonight before authorities fully seal the northern district. Moonlight reveals fortified fencing, sweeping searchlights, and armed patrols guarding every obvious entrance. Even so, the hidden intruder observes from nearby cover instead of recklessly challenging trained soldiers. He calculates each searchlight has a half-second blind spot every 14 seconds, while patrols circle half-hourly, then activates aura camouflage and bursts from the bushes during precisely that narrow opening. He races between crossing beams, remaining translucent as his practiced timing prevents exposure, before vaulting over razor wire and dropping silently beyond the guarded perimeter. One soldier all at once turns, sensing someone behind him despite seeing absolutely nothing. Yet the searchlights reveal only empty fencing and dark ruins under the moon. His partner dismisses the alarm as nervousness, allowing the invisible intruder to continue undetected. Meanwhile, Lin Yu lands inside the abandoned district, proving his infiltration succeeded. He searches devastated streets alone, moving deeper between collapsed buildings toward the abomination's nesting ground, until spotting a promising glow hidden beyond another shattered structure. There, an immense crystal-armored python sleeps coiled above multiple glowing red plants, making him climb cautiously and harvest everything while the monster remains unconscious. He reaches the ledge beside its huge body, where Venom has cultivated abundant crimson crystal grass, then grins and extends one hand toward the perfect ingredient without disturbing the sleeping beast. Unfortunately, the python awakens at that exact instant and towers above Lin Yu with glowing eyes, causing him to recognize the trap before its colossal head can complete the opening strike. Military combat art predicts the strike, enabling him to dive aside as armored jaws demolish the ledge. All the while, the enraged python crashes downward and buries the surrounding ruins beneath shattered concrete. He launches himself toward the grass during the collapse, instead of retreating empty-handed, successfully ripping one complete crimson plant from the ground as debris explodes around him. The python lunges again, but he twists beneath its jaws while protecting his prize, leaving the abomination biting empty air and growing even angrier at its evasive intruder. It rears up within the ruined courtyard, showing a gigantic body covered in crystalline blue armor. Meanwhile, our young brawler faces the towering alien beast alone with nowhere safe nearby. He sees that its reactions are far slower than expected, suggesting some temporary weakness limits the beast. then spots uneven scales separating across the python's massive neck. Understanding the creature is molting clarifies its sluggish responses and offers one narrow survival advantage, though its sweeping body still pulverizes vehicles and masonry while nearly crushing him. The blast exposes Lin Yu's body temperature, seemingly allowing the predator to follow him despite camouflage. As a result, simply sprinting through open ground would only guarantee his death. He narrowly avoids another devastating impact, refusing to surrender the harvested grass, then deliberately charges deeper between buildings, choosing restricted terrain over open escape routes. The python follows perfectly as planned, forcing its towering coils through a narrowing alley. Also, our brawler prepares to exploit architecture that sharply restricts the abomination's movements. He accelerates through the passage as the pursuing python smashes helplessly against both walls, verifying its oversized body cannot properly enter the narrow space around him. The trapped beast forces its head between buildings, roaring within striking distance but unable to maneuver. Also, he turns around, announcing he intends to finish their confrontation here. The python with violent force widens the opening with its armored skull, believing its prey has cornered himself. All the while, Lin Yu stands his ground before jaws large enough to swallow him whole. He reveals that he never fled from terror, only searched for the perfect opportunity to kill it. At the same time, the molting monster exposes softer red tissue between newly separated crystal scales. His hands transform into crimson claws, concentrating every available advantage into one decisive counterattack. Also, he charges directly underneath the python's descending mouth without slowing. As molting weakened its armor, striking the predicted vulnerable seam should bypass every hardened scale. As a result, the young hunter drives glowing claws into that precise point with explosive force. The blow tears deeply through the python's exposed underside while its immense jaws hang helplessly open. Meanwhile, the abomination's glowing eyes freeze as lethal damage spreads through its body. Its colossal neck recoils, cracked armor shedding fragments across the ruined alley, before Lin Yu completes the slash and rips through the vulnerable flesh in one motion. The crystal-armored python collapses behind him, defeated by a single perfectly targeted strike, leaving the young hunter amazed that careful planning allowed him to solo such a hazardous alien beast. The system rewards 5% claw proficiency, bringing level 1 progress to 95%. Meanwhile, the teenager questions what new effect awaits when one decisive increase completes the level. The next day brings Lin Yu to Tongsinde Pharmacy with every required potion ingredient secured, as is only a usable mixing chamber now separates him from producing Ascending Dragon. Unfortunately, staff furiously refuse his borrowing request, emphasizing their gear costs an immense fortune. Meanwhile, throw the persistent student outside for promptly dismissing his explanation. Night falls while he continues searching across the city for any affordable alternative, regretting that Yang Jinlong's memories mentioned a private laboratory without showing its actual location. Buying standard equipment himself would cost hundreds of thousands or millions, far beyond his resources, until an unforeseen sound from a traditional shop interrupts that discouraging calculation. The sign reads Xingshan Hall, a strangely familiar name that draws the young pharmacist closer. Also, shelves of medicinal jars reveal the old-fashioned establishment is by all appearances another pharmacy. With nothing left to lose, Lin Yu enters and resolves to ask directly, finding a young clerk loudly absorbed in a mobile game instead of watching customers. He silently questions how this neglected business has avoided bankruptcy before approaching the counter, then wants to know if the pharmacy contains a proper potion mixing chamber. The distracted clerk eventually looks up, suspiciously demanding why a stranger needs such gear. As a result, he instantly offers 1,000 yuan for 2 hours of access. That confident proposal surprises the gamer, who questions whether this student can simply rent private facilities. All the while, he raises his offer to 2,000 and warns to leave otherwise. Money defeats hesitation, and the young clerk quickly accepts payment with newfound enthusiasm, then leaves his game behind and tells the customer to follow him inside. The clerk inwardly plans to erase surveillance evidence later, keeping this unauthorized rental totally hidden, meanwhile limiting access to 2 hours and demanding the hall be restored afterward. He also refuses any refund for unused time, determined to protect his easy profit, then warns Lin Yu that damaging even one machine means paying its full value. Inside, complete professional gear easily exceeds everything required for brewing Ascending Dragon, though the rookie pharmacist grudgingly wears a pink protective suit by all appearances designed for a woman. Remembering someone previously watching the shop may return, Lin Yu resolves speed is essential, also begins by concentrating and extracting medicinal essence from each prepared herb. He meticulously feeds the glowing crimson crystal grass into a processor without wasting its energy, then activates the machine as expert potion mastery guides every temperature and timing adjustment. After sustained work, multiple containers hold differently colored extracts ready for the final stage. As a result, he measures each liquid according to Yang Jinlong's exact recipe proportions. The combined mixture becomes a bright golden solution, seemingly verifying successful integration, until ominous black fumes abruptly rise from the vessel and signal alarming instability. A violent explosion erupts from the gear, compelling him to shield himself from burning spray. Also, for a brief moment of dread, he is convinced the entire expensive attempt failed. Instead, the scattered golden liquid solidifies into glowing medicinal masses across the table, demonstrating the unusual reaction created a usable ascending dragon product rather than destroying it. The young pharmacist portions the finished medicine into 4 measured doses, maximizing his single rare harvest, then raises the first dose to his mouth, determined to test Ascending Dragon personally. The medicine tastes awful, but he swallows entirely before judging Jingyang Jinlong's formula. Also, an immediate surge reddens his eyes as unfamiliar energy floods every channel. Fiery power erupts around his body, compelling him to brace against the overwhelming internal reaction, showing Ascending Dragon does far more than simply provide temporary vitality. It mobilizes undigested energy already stored inside the body and enables secondary absorption, all the while the nearby clock measures how quickly this extraordinary physiological transformation occurs. Lin Yu gradually stabilizes the violent flow, finding newfound control instead of harmful side effects. Also, estimates its vitality benefit alone equals 20 routine blood-fortifying potions. Better still, it regulates vitality throughout his body and creates additional capacity for future improvement, showing Yang Jinlong's decade of research could dramatically strengthen warriors throughout Huaxia. However, the young soul devourer keeps this discovery secret until greater personal strength protects him from exploitation, then abruptly recalls why the pharmacy's name, Jingshan Hall, sounded familiar. One cremated soldier's memory held within the soul identified this exact shop as his family's ancestral business, supposedly managed by a capable sister despite its current neglected and nearly deserted condition. Respecting that connection, he leaves one ascending dragon dose with a written note. Choosing this small kindness may repay the dead serviceman and create useful goodwill. After cleaning the mixing hall, he tells the clerk his work is finished and prepares to leave. Still, the abruptly friendly gamer offers contact information for any future gear needs. Lin Yu accepts without argument, preserving access to this surprisingly valuable laboratory. Meanwhile, dawn colors the sky as his successful brewing night at last ends. Meanwhile, Singshan Hall CEO Gu Chiyuya returns after selling family properties to fund unsuccessful potion research, secretly wishing her deceased brother could guide her before the nervous clerk welcomes her back. She instantly spots the enigmatic visitor's abandoned dose and note resting inside the pharmacy, then angrily learns Chen Fei secretly allowed an unknown customer into her mixing chamber. Rather than arguing first, Gu Chuya resolves to test the labeled new vitality potion. Meanwhile, 10 minutes later orders Chen Fei to identify whoever produced such an astounding medicine. She tackles the panic-stricken clerk, insisting upon meeting this enigmatic pharmacist promptly, yet his provided number is already powered off, preventing direct contact. Gu Chuya demands repeated calls and offers Chen Fei a 100,000 yuan bonus for success. All the while, the scene shifts to a crowded underground black market elsewhere in the city. Lin Yu discreetly advertises 2 body-strengthening potions with 20-fold efficacy and escalating prices, concealing his identity beneath a hood as skeptical shoppers gather around the improvised stall. Customers mock the extraordinary claim, arguing even blood-enhancing medicine only doubles vitality. Still, the cloaked merchant grudgingly sells because his sister's mounting medical bills require urgent cash. Mighty young buyer Cao Kun arrives with bodyguards and a blonde companion beside the market. Meanwhile, the companion directs his boss toward the exceptionally large crowd surrounding the concealed vendor. They shove routine shoppers aside, clearing a path for Cao Kun to inspect the merchandise, whose sign charges 500,000 for 1 dose and double that price for the second. Considering those amounts an insignificant sum, Cao Kun picks up 1 tube and studies it closely, then wants to know if the concealed vendor is merely a paid shill working for someone else. A muscular black market veteran interrupts, calling the 20-fold claim an obvious scam he has seen repeatedly. Yet Cao Kun identifies himself as Minghai Pharmacy's eldest Cao heir, dismissing any shill accusation. The veteran proposes a bet, offering public apology if it works, but threatening destruction otherwise. All the while, Cao Kun considers that purchasing 1 questionable tube carries little personal risk. Before he chooses, the aggressive challenger heads toward the hooded vendor's stall and merchandise. As a result, the cloaked merchant promptly kicks him backward with enough force to lift his huge body. Lin Yu's eyes darken as crimson claws emerge, warning every spectator against further interference. Then one hand slams the veteran into stone, leaving the supposed expert totally overpowered. He orders the defeated troublemaker to remain quiet unless he actually intends to buy. Meanwhile, Cao Kun questions whether such staggering strength already came from the advertised medicine. He transfers 500,000 yuan and officially purchases the first remaining ascending dragon dose, though his blonde companion volunteers to test it first for hidden poison. Cao Kun refuses hesitation and drinks the entire expensive potion himself before everyone watching. All the while, Lin Yu warns its activation requires enduring pain severe enough to break normal people. The empty tube shatters as Cao Kun abruptly loses control of his body, Also so, burning red energy coils around him while overwhelming excruciating pain drives him onto one knee. His panic-stricken entourage warns everyone nearby, believing their boss may be dying, yet he calmly explains Chao Kun only needs sufficient toughness to endure the transformation. Cao Kun activates his family's substitution technique, channeling the violent medicinal energy through disciplined circulation. Meanwhile, fiery power stabilizes around him as the Cao heir successfully withstands Ascending Dragon. 30 minutes later, Cao Kun celebrates as his vitality decisively breaks through 10, then impatiently asks for the remaining tube and pledges to purchase every future batch. The seller charges 1 million for the second dose and limits sales to once monthly. Even so, Cao Kun makes the payment instantly while shocked witnesses realize the medicine's 20-fold claim was genuine. He next reminds the muscular challenger to fulfill his promised kneeling apology, also the humiliated veteran kowtows, admitting he failed to recognize Cao Kun's greatness. With hospital money secured, Lin Yu leaves quickly to renew his sister's treatment before closing time. Still, Cao Kun rushes after him and asks the enigmatic master to wait. The Cao heir offers a specially appointed family pharmacist position with unrestricted salary and conditions, even though he refuses employment because he values freedom and rejects institutional restrictions. Cao Kun instead proposes cooperation where Lin supplies recipes and the Cao family handles production, making Lin Yu consider their network useful for Life Enchantress's 5 missing ingredients. He conditionally accepts if Cao Kun can locate those exceptionally rare medicinal materials, naming Purple Cloud Lotus, Ice Heart Grass, Radiant Leaf Fruit, Dragon Whisker Vine, and Earth Dragon Essence. The blonde companion recognizes Earth Dragon Essence as neighboring Fengzhou's specialty from association records, then reveals official martial artists can access the Martial Arts Association's ingredient database. Cao Kun can promptly secure 3 ingredients, challenge beasts guarding Radiant Leaf Fruit, and attend next month's Vine auction. Therefore, both men exchange contact information and agree to share any progress. After Lin Yu leaves, Cao Kun forbids leaks and plans to report everything personally to his patriarch father. Meanwhile, Qingtung Academy students begin physical testing inside the gymnasium. An examiner explains punching scores determine limited warrior assessment quotas, demanding everyone's strongest performance. Meanwhile, a muscular green-haired student attacks the machine with an explosive full-power strike. His display records 312 kilograms, establishing an intimidating early benchmark. Meanwhile, classmates note any top 3 finisher receives a guaranteed warrior assessment place. The young fighter estimates his strengthened body should now produce approximately 1,000 kilograms. Still, the examiner warns each student receives only 1 machine-recorded opportunity. The once weak student steps forward and launches a restrained punch, expecting an easy qualifying score, whose impact still thunders across the apparatus and shakes its reinforced housing. Lin Xin watches anxiously from the crowd as everyone awaits the measurement. However, the monitor reports an impossible reading of 48 kilograms beside Lin Yu's name. Li Minyu smugly tells him to abandon any hope of passing today's test. Also confused students question how someone who defeated Zhang Yang could score below elementary level. He knows even his deliberately restrained strike could never produce such weakness, therefore he announces the machine broken and requests another calibrated device for retesting. The examiner refuses, claiming every instrument received uniform calibration and must be trusted. Still, that convenient dismissal only confirms deliberate interference to the targeted student. He warns them that undeniable results will speak louder than their prepared excuses, then turns back and drives another heavy punch toward the suspicious machine. His fist lands with concentrated force, making the housing crack beneath the impact. All the while, Li Minyu angrily wants to know if Lin Yu considers the assessment his personal joke. The director cites the student's old 0.62 vitality record, pretending 48 kilograms is entirely normal. Yet the student asks why harmless retesting frightens Li Minyu if every instrument truly works. Li Minyu accuses him of disrupting discipline, questioning teachers, and attempting unauthorized machinery damage, then rolls up his sleeves and personally moves to enforce academy rules. The incensed director charges with train speed, swinging a heavy fist toward the teenager's head. However, Lin Yu slips sideways, allowing the opening strike to cut through empty space. Li Minyu instantly follows with a rising kick that nearly catches the evasive student. Still, our brawler rotates beneath it and prepares his own low counterstrike. Onlookers reveal Director Li is a retired battlefront warrior, making this confrontation truly hazardous. All the while, the student proposes as earning a fair second attempt by defeating him in a direct contest. Calling that challenge arrogant, Li Minyu advances without considering the humiliating possibility of losing, meanwhile blocks the student's first punch using both hardened forearms. He abruptly seizes the student's throat, attempting to overpower him through superior size. Still, he traps the gripping arm and climbs over the director's shoulder. Twisting the joint while bracing against Li Minyu's back, he breaks the hold totally, then flips away as their rapid exchange propels the two fighters across the examination floor. The retired warrior recovers quickly and lunges forward again, refusing public embarrassment, even though the teenager's technical combat art now forces Li Minyu to reassess his supposedly weak rival. Lin Yu abruptly disappears from the director's sight before the next assault can land, then reappears behind him with a crimson claw strike already tearing toward his back. Lin Yu cancels claw skill at the last instant, fearing its blades would kill his faculty member, also substitutes a bare fist that Li Minyu senses approaching from behind. The director turns just before impact, narrowly preventing the surprise assault from landing cleanly, then captures the incoming wrist with both hands and reverses their positions. Using greater physical power, Lee Min-yu savagely throws him onto the floor hard enough to crack it. Meanwhile, announces the confrontation over while preserving his rival's original failed assessment outcome. He also warns against using tricks to obtain quotas, refusing any further argument. Meanwhile, worried Lin Shin helps the bleeding student and suggests visiting the infirmary. Lin Yu refuses treatment, insisting he still must retest and earn a warrior assessment quota, as the strength gap feels conquerable once he gains another meaningful improvement. That night returns our determined protagonist to his deadly night duty at Crematorium 1. There, protective gear hides his school injuries while he prepares for another corpse batch. Lee Min-yu's accusation continues haunting him, turning the denied retest into personal motivation. Meanwhile, he vows to win using only military combat art until the director accepts defeat. Entering the facility, he surprisingly finds Captain Chen waiting inside, who clarifies Frontier Corps arrivals quadrupled and superiors deployed his squad for security. Chen Zhen promptly spots the student's fresh injuries and asks what happened, yet Lin Yu dismisses them as harmless marks from sparring with an instructor and learning moves. He instead requests permission to process additional corpses beyond tonight's far bigger than normal assignment, hoping extra wages can support his sister before joining Chen's squad despite the captain's concern. Chen grudgingly offers 8 additional corpses awaiting incineration, and Lin Yu confidently accepts them all, though the captain orders him to summon help instantly if anything becomes unmanageable. Left alone, the furnace worker searches specifically for a senior proficient in advanced military combat art, moving methodically between covered bodies inside Crematorium 1's guarded storage area. The first corpse lacks a combatant's physique, so he respectfully moves onward, until finding a broad, scarred older warrior beneath the next sheet. His uniform identifies an elite Special Operations Brigade veteran, precisely matching the young laborer's requirements. Also, Soul Devour activates through contact, as he says he is sorry for entering the late elder's memories. Those memories show ferocious, hand-to-hand training under the gray-haired squad leader's command, followed by disciplined combat against formidable alien beasts across shattered battlefields. The leader rallies his surrounded unit to clash outward together rather than surrender, before the system identifies Special Class Warrior Zhang Mingxuan and offers 3 cultivation choices. The young Soul Devourer selects military martial art, believing this brigade's specialized version contains valuable differences, upgrading it to level 4 with 50% physical enhancement, penetrating force, and crushing fist. Soul Devour itself also upgrades, enabling soul consumption through contact while retaining 12-hour cooldowns. At the same time, enhanced prediction reaches 1 second, and the new techniques bypass defenses or launch explosive counters. Recognizing precisely how to challenge Lee Min-yu again, he plans immediate practice after work, meanwhile later trains alone inside a quiet gym, repeating the inherited movements continuously. Crushing Fist generates power from waist and abdomen, requiring no obvious wide arm swing, leaving the young Soul Devourer confident this hidden explosive counter can reverse their next confrontation. He drives another compact punch into the suspended training bag, testing power without exaggerated movement, yet repeated impacts strike unevenly across its surface instead of concentrating through one point. Lin Yu senses something remains wrong despite copying every inherited motion accurately, until Captain Chen enters and questions whether he continued practicing throughout the entire night. Chen offers direct instruction, telling the rookie to punch him so he can evaluate force generation. Also, the worn-out teenager promptly launches his practice-crushing fist without a second thought. The captain catches it cleanly with one palm, stopping the supposedly explosive strike, leaving the young fighter surprised while Chen coolly analyzes every flaw in his technique. His waist generates power correctly, but a premature shoulder drop openly reveals the assault's direction, as Crushing Fist should transmit force through relaxed shoulders while twisting only waist and abdomen. Lin Yu accepts the correction and gets ready for another attempt with entirely adjusted posture, then hits the bag again, sending concentrated force straight through its reinforced body. Feeling the difference promptly, the young combatant eventually comprehends how the technique should operate, also tells astonished Chen Zhen he only began practicing this move tonight. The captain recognizes his newest recruit mastered Crushing Fist overnight and already applies internal penetrating force, leaving Chen to wonder whether his newest recruit is actually a once-in-a-generation prodigy. Morning returns to Qingtung Academy, where yesterday's punching scores remain displayed above the entrance, with 5 students ranked between 178 and 196 kilograms, while Lin Yu sits dead last at 48. Classmates mock that pathetic result, claiming his victory over Zhang Yang came from dirty tricks. But the target of their gossip strides past them without wasting a single glance. Instead of heading to class, our guy walks straight into the academic affairs office, where Director Lee looks genuinely surprised to find yesterday's battered challenger standing before him. Lin Yu formally requests a new physical examination, refusing to accept that rigged 48-kilogram score, yet Lee Min-yu insists the result is final and orders him to stop pestering the administration. Their argument draws the principal, who asks why students are crowding the halls before class, and Director Lee immediately stiffens when the academy's silver-haired headmaster steps into the confrontation. The senior introduces himself, then calmly explains that he disputes yesterday's physical exam result. The principal cites his 0.6 0.62 vitality and calls 48 kilograms reasonable, demanding proper grounds for appeal, so the student invokes Article 32, requesting a public duel against Director Lee for verification. Rather than dismiss him, the amused principal praises this fearless challenge and pats his shoulder. Lee protests that he already defeated Lin Yu yesterday, making another match completely unnecessary. But our boy flips that argument around, asking whether the director is suddenly afraid to lose. Impressed by his warrior spirit, the principal grants a special retest if the challenger wins today, and news of the rematch instantly sends excited students racing toward the training hall. Soon the challenger and Director Lee face each other again before a rapidly growing audience, where the older fighter rolls up his sleeves, promising today's lesson will be far more thorough. Director Lee opens the rematch with a vicious spinning kick aimed straight at the teenager's head, and the near-lethal attack convinces our guy that holding back would be downright suicidal. He ducks beneath the extended leg and explodes forward before Lee can recover his stance, catching the director's wrist while slipping inside the reach of his next counter. Lin Yu vaults across Lee's shoulder, twisting the captured arm and reversing their positions in one motion, before planting one hand against the older fighter's shoulder to lock down his balance. That sudden grip shocks Lee, who realizes yesterday's supposedly weak student has read him perfectly, but the challenger pivots away before retaliation, neutralizing the entire opening combination without taking damage. Director Lee can barely process that his first attack was dismantled by the same kid he flattened yesterday, as the challenger launches another military combat art counter before the veteran can reset. A precise strike catches Lee mid-motion, instantly knocking the veteran completely off balance, where he drops toward one knee, clutching his chest while pain tears through him. Humiliation drives the director upright again, because losing before the entire academy is unthinkable, yet our boy circles behind him with battlefront speed and ends the exchange before another strike begins. A hand settles on Lee's shoulder as the victor warns that a real battlefield would have killed him. The crowd erupts, realizing Lin won with bare hands. No camouflage, transformed claws, or system-powered spectacle. Director Lee freezes in disbelief, unable to explain such overwhelming improvement after only one night, while the calm winner turns toward the principal and requests his promised physical retest. The principal approves, revealing he personally inspected the machine and found absolutely nothing wrong. Still, the veteran headmaster knows this power cannot possibly belong to someone with 0.62 vitality. With the rematch settled, Lin Yu steps before the same machine that branded him physically worthless, draws one steady breath, and channels every ounce of newly refined martial power into his fist, then unleashes a full-force punch that detonates against the sensor with a thunderous blast. The teenager turns away without hesitation, already certain the machine finally captured something close to reality, while students crowd the railing and strain to read whatever unbelievable score is appearing. Director Lee stares in horror, unable to understand how yesterday's weakling produced such monstrous force, and even the experienced principal falls silent as the impossible number finishes calculating before his eyes. The display confirms 20,155 kilograms, transforming that humiliating 48-kilogram joke into raw proof of power. News soon reaches the towering Martial Arts Association headquarters, where the city's strongest warriors gather, including President Zhang Jiance, a peak level 5 expert meditating beneath crushing blue energy. Chen Zhen bursts into his office carrying a tablet and announces an urgent situation report, prompting the composed president to ask what could make reliable little Chen behave so recklessly. Instead of explaining, the cleanup captain places the recording before him and demands he watch first, identifying its black-haired student as the same Lin Yu he had mentioned earlier in private. One glance at that 20,155-kilogram combat score leaves the level 5 powerhouse visibly stunned, especially after Chen confirms the machine passed inspection, and this student defeated a retired frontline warrior. Zhang Jiance studies every movement, recognizing the fearless spirit and instincts of a true martial artist, then marvels that an 18-year-old perfected military combat art beyond nearly every known genius. But Chen reveals the finishing technique required only one night of practice, proving Lin Yu is a prodigy. For President Zhang, cultivation means relentlessly squeezing the body until every hidden fragment of potential awakens, but rare individuals convert identical training with absurd efficiency, gaining one vitality point instead of U.01, and these 1 in 10 million monsters awaken equally extraordinary abilities, earning the world's ultimate title. Prodigy Lin Yu's former .62 vitality paired with level 3 combat power perfectly matches that terrifying pattern, making Zhang Jiance roar that Yongzhou has uncovered a treasure among prodigies at last. The ecstatic president spreads his arms, laughing that heaven itself has finally answered his prayers, because nurturing this next-generation genius could bring enormous national recognition and rewards to Yongzhou, especially the spirit potion capable of carrying Zhang from peak level 5 into level 6, which would finally let this sideline powerhouse return to the front lines he desperately misses. He orders Chen to erase the leaked video, prepare level 3 rewards, and arrange an immediate visit. Meanwhile, afternoon settles over Lin Yu's modest apartment building as another life-changing encounter approaches, where he tells his exhausted father that unexpected money can now cover his sister's hospital bills. But before the proud old man can argue, the doorbell announces an unknown visitor outside. Our guy cautiously opens the door and asks who has come looking for him, meeting Chu Kuang, the peak level 4 commander of the powerful Mad Lion Lion mercenary group. Before that smiling recruiter crosses the threshold, another confident voice announces he arrived in time. As Supreme Hall's Song Kai and Level 5 Commander Wu Tian descend through the air, Lin immediately recognizes their mid-air footwork as a technique reserved for genuinely high-level martial artists, while Chu Kuang blocks Commander Wu, insisting first arrival grants the right to negotiate first. Wu mocks Mad Lion's money, manuals, and resources as scraps too small to share, then greets the viral rookie prodigy and smoothly invites everyone inside to discuss competing offers. Unwilling to expose his secrets, Lin Yu coolly claims he knows nothing about any internet-famous rookie, but Wu Tian answers that denial by smashing a fist through the apartment wall in one violent warning. The Supreme Hall commander marches through the wreckage, demanding everyone stop talking nonsense and sit down, until the furious father plants himself between the intruders and his family, asking what these men want. Chu Kuang finally introduces himself properly, offering honorary Mad Lion membership without any ordinary obligations, plus Earth-tier fist arts, training courses, a 500,000 yuan monthly allowance, and help finding rare medicinal herbs. That final promise matters because those ingredients could advance his sister's life-saving medicine, but Wu Tian immediately doubles every technique and course, determined to crush his rival's proposal. Our guy finds those extras worthless beside Soul Devour, while Wu's arrogant behavior only disgusts him. Then Supreme Hall demands a test. Survive Prodigy Song Kai for 3 minutes before receiving membership. Instead of entertaining their challenge, Lin Yu rejects Supreme Hall outright and ends the negotiation. Wu sneers that refusal proves cowardice, but repayment for the destroyed wall and door is demanded. Calling the famous rookie an empty fraud, the enraged commander orders Song Kai to leave with him. Yet Song deliberately shoulder-checks the exhausted father aside and spits one final insult. Coward. The older man crashes down, forcing his terrified wife to catch him before he hits harder, and the departing prodigy barely turns around when a murderous voice freezes the entire room. Black-blue power erupts around Lin Yu as he warns that touching his father means courting death.